on Sunset Point Road, but it was considerably west of Top of the World. It was about where Keene Road goes through.
The judge always insisted that we had to have this because the azaleas would be in bloom then. The first Saturday after the first full moon in February, was it?
Yep.
And so when we had it at his appointed time, because he was the host with all this help from everybody, it was frequently a big nor'wester coming through with cold and rain, and so we had big fires out there and everybody would stand around that, and of course the seating was on orange crates, as you would expect. And we had a lot of, I remember some of the fabulous entertainment. Bill Goza one time brought in the
Ink spots.
ink spots.
Back in those days too, we always had difficulty remembering who was supposed to do what, and they'd make a list and it'd get lost. And Ham Baskin, in one of his brighter moments, got the idea of making the list and signing it, and notarizing it, and recording it at the courthouse. So every year you could go down to the courthouse and get a copy of the procedure of who was supposed to do what for the oyster roast.
And that was my introduction to the Florida hand grenade, because they took those big old, citrus knives and would cut a big hole in the middle, and Finch had about 3 or 4 bottles of Virginia Gentleman propped up against a tree, and they would pour it in and then squeeze the stuff out, the 2 of them. So yes, it's a true story.
But when we say groves, please understand that whole area was nothing but citrus groves, and it was tucked back in these citrus groves, and that's where it was, and literally had a pit dug in the ground where they did the roasting of the oysters. And far from a moneymaker, the food was provided by everybody bringing something, and there was a great exchange among the people who were there. A lot of stories being told, a lot of cases being tried and retried, a lot of just good fellowship among the lawyers and their family members.
And when you think of your first oyster roast, I was chairman of the ham committee, and they made a big joke out of it. Well, the first year we met out at John U. Bird's place. We had 1 ham, so that's how many bar members we had. 1 ham served everybody. Interesting thing that day, here I was carving the ham, and I'm a little awkward with the knife, so I cut my finger. And I'm bleeding all over the ham, and the judge said, "Don't worry about a thing," said, "they won't know the difference," and he kept me right on, and we served the ham.
My best one is that my youngest son was born the night of an oyster roast, and I was out there enjoying oysters and a little bit of bourbon, and some friend came out and said, "Your wife says you better take her to the hospital." So I went in and we went to the hospital, and Bruce was born about an hour later. So I have a very warm spot for oyster roast out of Judge Bird's Grove.
Frequently at George Brown's, the evening would end with a big bonfire. A bonfire burning, and people sat around, and believe it or not, they sat around and sang songs. It brought the bar close together.